Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into some source material covering a watch that's definitely caught some eyes. The Rado Captain Cook Over-Pole, specifically that recent reissue.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Our goal here, really unpack what makes this watch special. You know, how it mixes that old school feel with modern making, digging into the details. Let's just jump right in.
Okay, so right off the bat, it's kind of fascinating because Rado, well, we usually think of them for high-tech ceramics, very forward-looking designs.
Right. Futuristic almost.
Exactly. So for them to dig into their archives like this, and the source says, do it in a way that feels genuinely vintage, not just sort of inspired by it. Well, it creates this interesting tension for the brand. Can they be both?
Can they pull off cutting edge and heritage? The source seems to think they're making a really strong case with this Over-Pole, and that first impression the source mentions. It's just the charm, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. That 39mm case, gold PVD-coated steel, and the matching beads of rice bracelet. You hear gold PVD and might think, I don't know.
A bit much.
Yeah, maybe gaudy. But the source really describes it as having this warmth, suggesting taste, luxury without shouting.
And it's thin. That's key.
Yeah.
Just 10.9mm thick,
Yeah.
which the source points out is really thanks to the hand wound movement inside.
Definitely. And adding a tiny bit to that height, but a lot of character, is that bezel. The source calls it the Stadium City bezel.
Yes, the bezel.
It's black ceramic, got those nice gilt city names, and the author really felt that element just brings this watch home. It's got, 48 bidirectional clicks, feels really solid, no wiggle.
Yeah, sounds well made. And you get that classic domed crystal, too. A proper vintage touch.
Yeah.
But the source notes it doesn't really distort the dial view, which is good.
Always a plus.
And practical stuff, 100 meters water resistance. The source actually mentions testing this at a daunting 1-foot depth during bath time.
Huh. I love that bit. Very relatable field testing there.
Definitely. And speaking of wearing it, it comes on that gold PVD bracelet, but also a pebbled leather strap, which the source says is comfortable.
Right, and the bracelet clasp is apparently a cool throwback design. But the really unique thing, maybe a bit quirky, is Rado's quick release system on the bracelet, the Easy Clip.
Okay, yeah, tell me about the Easy Clip. The source seemed a bit unsure at first, but then kind of came around to it. How's it work?
So it's not like your typical quick release where the little lever is built into the end link. Rado uses an open channel in the end link itself. You slide their special quick release spring bars into that channel.
Okay, so if you lose one of those special spring bars, are you out of luck?
Well, that's the initial thought, right? And the source had that concern too. But the clever part, the flexibility, is because it's an open channel. If you lose the special bars, you can probably just use a standard spring bar.
Ah, I see.
Whereas with many integrated systems, if that little lever breaks or the whole end link is designed around it, you might need a whole new part, maybe even a whole bracelet. The Easy Clip, maybe a bit fiddly, gives you a backup plan. The source grew to appreciate that.
That actually is pretty smart. A good workaround. Okay, so moving from the bracelet inwards, the dial. The source says it's not really the main event. The bezel steals the show, but it's still nicely done.
Yeah, definitely well executed. It's a Sunray silver dial. You've got those nice, sharp, beveled gold PVD markers, especially the double one at 12 o'clock and matching Dauphine hands. Lume pips, too. Some neat little details.
Like the date wheel. The source highlighted that it's all red numbers, right? Not just alternating red and black like a roulette wheel.
Exactly. All red. And it apparently has this slight silvery sheen to it, not just flat white paint.
Oh, and you can't forget the spinning anchor logo up at 12.
Right, the Rado signature.
Yeah, and the source gives that little history reminder. It used to be a service indicator. If it stopped spinning freely, it meant the movement oil might be coming up. Just decorative now, but a cool nod.
Still a fun detail. Though, the source did find one small thing to critique on the dial, those 24-hour markings around the edge.
Ah, yeah. They're there, presumably to use with the Worldtimer bezel, but they don't line up perfectly with the minute markers. So setting the time precisely using those marks is hard unless you hit like exactly on a 5-minute spot.
Yeah, a minor point maybe, but for usability, it's worth mentioning. Okay, so let's talk engine room. The movement. Rado calls it the R862 Worldtimer movement. But the source makes a really important clarification here.
Okay, what's the key thing?
The source is super clear. The name is a bit misleading. The movement itself only does time and date, standard stuff. The world time functionality comes entirely from rotating that city bezel manually. It's not an actual world timer complication inside the watch.
Gotcha. So it's named for the watch's function, not the movement's capability. And the source says it's basically a hand-wound version of the ETAC 07 series. like the Powermatic 80.
That's right. Derived from an ETA 2824 too, but slowed down to 21,600 vibrations per hour. That slower beat rate is how they get that really long 80-hour power reserve.
Which is impressive for a hand winder. But the source raises an interesting point about why manual wind. They mention that an automatic version, like the one in the smaller 37mm ladies Captain Cook, is barely thicker, like less than a millimeter.
Yeah, so using an automatic movement wouldn't have drastically changed the dimensions or the vintage feel necessarily.
So it makes you wonder.
Was the manual wind strictly for historical accuracy, sticking to the original Over-Pole? Or was it more about achieving that specific, very appealing thinness that the hand-wound movement allows?
Good question, which kind of leads to the source's wrap-up. They find it very wearable, full of vintage charm, solid specs overall, and just, well, objectively attractive,
Yeah.
especially this gold version, maybe more so than the steel.
And the price point, $2,950 limited to 1962 pieces, nodding to the original's launch year.
So we've really covered the ground here. The look and feel, that standout bezel, the cleverness of the easy clip system, and what's actually going on with that Worldtimer move.
Yeah, lots of interesting layers to this one.
Which leaves us and you with a final thought to chew on. Given the R862 movement comes from an automatic family, it doesn't have a built-in world time function. Was making it manual wind really about the spirit of vintage watchmaking? Or was it primarily a choice driven by wanting that super slim profile the source likes so much? When you look at reissues like this, what's the right balance between old tech and new convenience? Something to think about.